We are live.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon,
Welcome.
good evening, good morning, wherever you might be. But yeah, good to see you again. Um, you you sounded like you just came from a marathon. When you were just like,
Come on, I look so calm now. Don't give it
oh,
away
oh,
like that.
100%, like the transformation is just
Whew.
incredible.
That's the power of breath work. You just take one deep breath, hold it for 10 seconds, let it out, and you're calm.
Yeah, yeah. No, remarkable,
Yeah, I
remarkable.
had I had a gang of children that sounded like
Again,
100 children. It was just three, but they were very active. Only a short few minutes ago.
oh yeah,
So I'm finally getting to breathe. It's the end of the school year. There's no more
yes,
after school, and
yeah.
we are juggling. Moms and dads are juggling.
Yes. Trying to get everything all re-coordinated and family vacations
Who
and
can grab my children now for an hour? Take
yeah,
them. Do what you want with them.
it's,
Just get them out.
yeah. You just don't do any harm. That's all. Yeah.
Bring
No.
them back alive.
Well, we were just talking a bit about the, like stuff is always happening, right? Stuff is always happening. It does, you just can't stop it. Like just before I got on here, um, my kitchen tap decided to fall apart. It just broke. It's like, okay, let's turn the water off.
Just leave it in that room. That's the
So
beauty of a screen. You can only see so far.
you can only see far. You have no idea what's going on.
That's right.
Hey, Ralphie, good to see you. Sandra, thank you for joining us
Hello,
today.
welcome everyone. Welcome
Yeah,
wherever you're coming from. Welcome
yeah,
Mind Valley friends.
yeah,
Welcome Meetup friends. Welcome YouTube and Facebook friends. We love
yeah.
having you here. And yeah, ask us any questions that you may have. And sorry, Ralphie, to hear you're feeling really stuck. We're going to talk about this and
Yeah, maybe
hopefully you get
maybe
some
what you might hear
clarity.
might be helpful. I always encourage everybody to just sort of, you know, listen with an open mind and an open heart, right?
Absolutely.
Listen, don't listen to confirm what you already know. Look for something fresh and new. And yeah, there might be stuff that you've already heard before, but maybe in a different way. And
Absolutely.
but anyways, so a week's gone by. Last show was pretty good too, eh? It got a lot of
I,
attention.
I love that A, Canadian accent.
Oh,
You got caught.
well, what about I can't change like you have this interesting
I
flavor.
think it's very cute, actually. I love it.
Oh,
I have the, I don't know what kind of accent I have, but I hear the New York accent a lot, turns out. It's a
yeah,
lot of New Yorkers here
yeah,
in Brooklyn.
in Brooklyn. Funny how that works, eh? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's good to
so
see you. Thank
welcome everyone. So
you. Yeah,
happy to see everyone here. What a topic that we picked.
stuck.
What a topic. Who hasn't felt stuck in their lives before? It's too bad I don't have all these
Yeah.
children's hands to go
Oh,
up,
no
right?
kidding. No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. And
No,
it's
it's
and
and
in the
last
moment,
sorry.
it feels like there's no way out, right? When you feel stuck, you feel like there's no way out.
Yeah.
And we're here to tell you that there is a way out. There always is a way out,
Oh,
right?
totally. There's the biggest problem. Um, not the biggest problem. I got to watch my language sometimes. We could exaggerate a little bit, but it feels in the moment over like it's just over, like you're up against the wall. You're like it feels unattainable in the
Mhm.
moment, always in the moment, right? But when you reflect back, and I've known you for, is it going on 2 years now?
I think more like 3.
No way.
I think so.
Actually,
2020.
it feels like I've known you for longer, but
I don't know. Maybe almost 2. No, you're right. I don't
yeah,
know. It's all a
yeah.
blur.
But we shared a lot of things in the beginning, and I remember the transitions that you were going through, and
Mhm.
reflecting back on my long history. But like at every moment that I remember that, I don't know how I'm going to get past this. I just don't know how
Mhm.
I'm ever going to get past this. Well, here I am today. I
You
got
passed
past it.
it. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I I couldn't I can't go back and tell you exactly what I did to get through it, but I'm reassured that no matter what seems to be the worst case scenario, I seem to get on the other side. And we all have that. And I think if everybody just reflected back on their past to all those moments where it was the worst case scenario, it was the very fact that you're here today watching our show, and thank you very much, is a testament to your own inner resilience.
And willingness to
And
see
yeah,
through it, right? Willingness to try and start doing things a little differently.
absolutely.
And listen, I do want to speak to something like, because when so I'm trying to release the out of my head for a second and think about when I hear that question, are you still feeling stuck? What does it bring up for me?
Hmm.
And for me, it brings up circumstances, right? Those circumstances in which I feel like it doesn't depend on me, right? My circumstances are crushing me, my circumstances are limiting me, the circumstances are not changing, right? And when I go down that rabbit hole, right, like it feels very disempowering, right?
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is to look at this in a couple different ways, right? Let's look at the circumstances, because in my experience, telling people that they need to focus out of the circumstances and focus onto themselves
Hmm.
right away, it doesn't really click, right?
No, no, no. You're
It
right.
doesn't, because the circumstances may be very difficult. There are realities that are very difficult, and suffering is reality for some people, right? It's not always true, but there are moments in which that feels very thick and it feels very disempowering, right? So, what I want to say to that is that there are absolutely moments and circumstances in which you feel very stuck, you feel very powerless, right? Especially when it comes down to finances, health, someone that you love that's really ill. That
Yeah,
happened to
yeah,
me with my
yeah,
first husband, who
yeah,
ended up passing away. I cannot really recall any other moment in my life where I felt more powerless than
yeah,
in
yeah,
those moments where someone that I love deeply was very, very ill and was dying, right? So that's real, right? We don't want to say that that is not, there's no truth to that.
no,
But what we always help you see is what you can do about it, and how can you live through these circumstances in a more empowered way, right? And
exactly.
there's a difference between acknowledging that something is really difficult and sometimes really impossible too, right? Really impossible. There's a difference between acknowledging that and then stepping out of it and asking yourself, what can I do? What do I have the power to control now?
Hmm.
And looking at a situation and rehearsing it, right? I know we use the word rehearsing a lot, so I want to explain that a little bit as well, right? When we talk about rehearsing, we're really talking about the thinking, going back to the thinking and obsessing in your mind and in your
Yeah,
thoughts around the circumstances and the situation, and like reliving all these scenarios in your head is rehearsing them, right?
yeah.
The rehearsing can be, the initial rehearsing can be really good and helpful in processing, right? But there's a point where you must step out of it to see what you can do about it within your own power, right? If you continue to stay there and rehearse it, all you're doing is you're recycling your feelings, right? You're
You're
recycling feelings of
yeah,
resentment and anger and fear and feeling disempowered and feeling that you have no power in these circumstances,
Yeah.
right? Which does not move the situation, right? Does not change the situation. So once you're able to validate that the way you feel is real, it's valid, is understandable, right? Now, what you can do is start looking at it from a different perspective,
Yeah.
right?
And there's a couple of things that are not necessarily helpful in the moment. Um, and everybody knows that. Everybody sees that in you. Like you, others will always see things that you won't see because you're in the thick of it, right? And so they have the luxury of being outside, and they look at it, and as much as they are are there for support and think that they are doing the best, even though in the beginning I said, you're you know realize that you will get over it. Well, in the moment, that's probably the last thing you need to hear.
You don't need to hear that.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
very
don't worry,
triggering.
don't
Yeah.
worry, Fatih, you'll get over it. You'll get over it, right?
Would I punch you? I
You
had
will.
those thoughts so many times, especially, you will be surprised, but people really do that with grief when
Oh,
someone's grieving.
yeah,
And it's very triggering. And those are the moments where when you're grieving someone that you love, like,
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
like
No,
literally move out of my way because you will be punched.
absolutely, absolutely. Because,
Yeah.
well, for the one thing that I've found, living in that process and then reflecting back, okay, the experience is that it's a very personal experience. Nobody, I don't care who you are or how close you are to the individual, cannot have that same experience. So it's a very,
Absolutely
very
not.
individual. So do even, as much as you know, are there to really, you feel like you're being helpful and all that, again, to say, oh, you'll eventually get over this, or, you're a lot stronger than you think, all these other things that, excuse me, sound good, it's not necessarily what the person needs,
It's
right?
not what the person needs, right? And that's such a good point. And also for the person that's on the receiving end, always remember everyone's acting from their level of understanding in that moment, right? So no
Absolutely.
one's doing it to hurt you, even if it feels like a stab to your
Oh,
heart
yeah.
in that moment,
Yeah.
right? No one's doing it to hurt you. That's the best that they can do in that moment,
Yeah.
right? So that's a very first part. When you feel stuck, it's important to acknowledge it,
Well,
recognize it, look at it,
right.
and have
Like,
compassion towards it, right?
what is stuck, right?
What
Like
is
for
stuck?
me is
Stuck.
like, go ahead. Like, I was gonna say, like for me, being stuck is is getting really personal around the position that I'm in right now. That there's a series of feelings that are going on there. There's sort of like this I want to be someplace else, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel stuck. I feel frustrated that I should be someplace else. So there's a lot of clues
Mm-hmm.
in my own language
Mm-hmm.
about the should or I need to, right? So when my reality is not matched up with what my thinking is, then it creates a feeling of stuckness. Like
When it's
reality is
yeah.
matched up with what I think I should be.
Well, I mean, it very much is in the thinking of not seeing a way out, right? And you can be stuck in so many different ways, right? You can be stuck because you feel stuck by your circumstances, or you feel stuck because you can't take action, right? We'll get into that in a minute, right? There's different kinds of stuckness, right? You can feel stuck in your emotions, right? You can feel stuck, uh, and you not know why, right? I'm just stuck. I just cannot change my life. My life feels like blah, but
Yeah.
I can't seem to be able to move it, right? I can't seem to be able to move the needle one bit, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot that we can speak to there in terms of what causes that, right? Oftentimes there's work of clarity that needs to be done, right? You need to look at the motivation. You need to look at what is it that you're working towards. There's a lot of different things that you could be looking at. 100% of the times there's a conflict in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some sort of conflict that keeps you there. I really want to do this one thing, but I cannot take action towards it,
Yeah.
right? So when you have these opposing desires within the same situation or circumstance or the thing that you're working towards, always remember that's a conflict. There's
Well,
one part of you that wants
yeah.
one thing, and there's another part of you that's protecting you from something else that perhaps you need to be looking at, you need to be, like reflecting on, journaling on, really being honest with yourself, doing the work, right? Frankly,
But
to
there's
uncover
another
that.
aspect to that, like what I heard you when you were saying about um, you know, wanting to do something, right, and feeling the
Mhm.
struggle and feeling being stuck. That that needs to be analyzed in an open way, because there's
Mhm.
another possibility that there's a reason why you're stuck. It may not be, it could be, your wisdom sort of like having that little bit of an internal struggle around. It may not be the best place for you to go or the right decision, right? Because I, I found that, you know, there are less decisions when you're following your heart, when you're following your direction, when you're following your intention to make. It's
Mhm.
only when it's in conflict with something that's going on, and it's like, okay, so why am I at a crossroads right now? That doesn't make any sense. Like so it's worth exploring that from that also aspect, and the fact that what, maybe it also could be telling you that may to step away, like you're too close to the situation, you're too close
Step
to the problem,
away and to see
right?
it in a different way.
Because
Yeah,
because as you step further away, you see more of the picture,
absolutely.
right?
And the other thing that I want to say, right? So a lot of times there's conflict within you, but a lot of times the conflict can be on the outside, right? It could be like social conditioning or social beliefs that are in conflict with what you truly feel, right?
Yeah.
It could be your spouse that feels very differently about a certain situation than you do, right? And you're trying to meet them in the middle, but then that creates conflict within you because you want something different, right? So the conflict can also come from the outside, right? Come from some of the beliefs that we have about ourselves that came from conditioning, that came from experiences. I mean, we talked a lot about limiting beliefs in the last couple episodes, right? Or what we believe to be true about ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So so I would say, the most important thing that you can do is really start looking, like turning that finger instead of focusing on the outer circumstances, right? Which we said the only useful part of that is to really acknowledge how difficult those circumstances may be, right? And there's nothing else that you can do from there other than just turn the fingers towards you, right? Turn it around and ask yourself, what can I do about this? Because what can I do about this is an empowering question, because you're asking yourself, where is my power? Where can I actually shift the needle here, move things
Yeah.
along, right? But when you focus on what's outside of you that you have no power to control,
No,
then you feel disempowered, right? So it's
feel
useful to
disempowered.
acknowledge it.
Yeah. You feel disempowered. You also feel, that's part of the struggle, because again, like you're pointing to, it's unmatched to what you think, right? So the outside circumstances are just that. They are outside circumstances. Life is just flowing by, right?
Life is just flowing
Kids are
by. Yeah.
chaos. Kitchen sinks are overflowing. Waters, it like stuff is always happening. So we're always experiencing those circumstances, experiencing life through the level of our thinking in the moment, right? So,
Hmm.
so part of what I do as sort of as a rule, when I feel I'm stuck or I'm feeling frustrated, I kind of have this. First of all, you have to notice it,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
there's that observer state, right? So you have to have that conscious awareness that, oh, Jesus, I'm really feeling stuck right now. How much of that stuckness am I contributing to?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's an inward discussion. And, and it's sort of like, okay, I use my snow globe metaphor, right? I got to stop shaking the snow globe enough to get clarity. I have to see this
Absolutely.
for what it
That's
is.
the starting point,
That's
really,
the starting
right?
point.
The
Yeah.
starting point.
Yeah.
Like I think what we spoke to, like recognizing, acknowledging the circumstances, and having compassion towards them and towards ourselves is one step, right? And then calming your system, right? Getting that outer perspective, like getting out of the situation, right? By calming your nervous system, because if you're plugged into the situation and all the triggers and the thinking that's making you angry and mad and feeling disempowered, there's nowhere to go. Your focus is very narrowed in that moment, right? So really calming down, right? And then there's the inner work, and the inner work very much entails, it's very subjective, right? But
Yeah.
it's a work of clarity,
It's
clarifying,
it's
right?
it's, it's clarity. Yeah.
Clarifying, well, okay, what's the situation, what's happening, is there a block, is there some kind of conflict within me, right? What is keeping me stuck, right? Oftentimes what keeps us stuck, especially in situations where I really want to do this thing but I don't really ever make it happen, is lack of taking action, right? Lack of motivation, right? Lack of even believing that you can, right? You don't even believe that you can change things, right?
Hmm.
So those are all things that when you do the inner work, you will be looking at, right?
Yeah.
What could increase my motivation? What could, why am I not even motivated to do this thing,
Well, that's
right?
a good question. See that, so I'm just going to bring up Don's question here because what he's saying is it seems like I don't take any action or I procrastinate, right? Which is
Mhm.
so common, right? It's
So common.
so common. I mean, it's a natural response too. Like, I think
Mhm.
we've all felt that. I don't care how coach like or who you are in this world. I am sure that there are things even Elon Musk, right? Might procrastinate or not take action on.
Mhm.
But part of that is, and I believe they have a higher understanding of the importance of clarity, right? And like you're pointing to, okay, the reason why you might not be taking action is because not that you don't believe that you can't take that action, but if you really really wanted to do it, you would be doing it. So there's a lot of things in there around, you know um your desire to, right? So I know that I am
The
very
motivation, yeah.
I'm very very motivated to do, you know when I'm on the learning the piano, I'm very motivated. When I'm woodworking, I'm very motivated. When I'm being creative, I'm being motivated. I look forward to, there are things that I like the show and coaching, very motivated, right? But there are things that, oh man, do I have to do
Doing the
art now?
laundry, folding clothes, the dishes in the dishwasher,
That's what I
right?
did.
The
I
things
put
that we don't love, right?
all those things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I started to look at it from a point of, not that they're separate entities of my life, but they were part of my life. So I put doing laundry and doing dishes as part of, as opposed to, something that isn't part of, and therefore I don't want to do it. So
Hmm.
it's really kind of, it's a bit of a reframing.
I actually have a really good trick for that one, because those are not things that I enjoy doing. As a single parent,
Yeah.
full-time single parent, I have to do that a lot.
Yeah.
I just listen to amazing podcasts while I do
Oh
it.
yes. Oh yeah.
It's like
Or
it makes it, I don't even think about it. So, one of the tricks is actually to kind of
yeah,
Jedi mind trick your brain
yeah.
to stop it from thinking about rehearsing, oh, these dishes, or, oh, the laundry, or like, I gotta, like do this paper for work that I hate, right? So that's part of the things that we have to do that we don't have that much motivation to do, right? But sometimes we don't take actions on things that we feel like, this is my passion. I started this business. I really, really want to, I believe in it. I want to get it going. And then we don't take action, right? So
Mhm.
being stuck and like procrastination and all this stuff is a very common thing that we coach
Oh,
on, right?
oh yeah,
As coaches. And
100%.
oftentimes when you start really looking into it and start digging, there is that conflict that I was talking about, right? And oftentimes the conflict is somewhere deep in your subconscious, right? So it can be, I want to give an example so that people know what we're talking about. It can be like, I really want to start this business, but there's a part of me that doesn't feel super confident that I even know what I'm doing, right? I really want to start this business, but and these are the trickiest ones, right? But if I do, then I may not be able to spend that much time with my children. What am I going to do? Right? Like, how am I going to figure out childcare? So, oftentimes, those buts are not things that we're aware of. They only come out as the person gets coached and starts really digging a little bit deeper into why am I not? What would it mean? Right? This is a really good question, actually,
Oh, totally.
everyone.
That's
What would it mean if I actually took action? What are some of the pros and cons of me taking action?
yeah.
Right? How would my life change if I had this business? Right? Do I have the belief that if I have my own business and I go full in it, it's going to take over my life? I'm going to be working like endless hours, right? Because people have all sorts of beliefs, right? So it is
All
really a
sorts
work
of
of
yeah,
checking
yeah,
in
yeah.
with your beliefs, checking in with your values, checking in with your priorities, right? What are some things that matter to me? What feels at, like a what feels like it's being threatened here, right? Because we have these different parts in us. This is a little bit of a coachy talk, right? We have these different parts in us that are in charge of protecting different
Mhm.
areas of our lives, right? So when one part gets really bold and ambitious and really wants to pursue something, there's another part that comes knocking on the door if you lose sight of what that part is protecting and is like, wait a minute. What do you mean you're going to start this business? Does that mean you're not going to be resting, eating well, sleeping? What's going to happen to the kids? Whatever it is, right? It all happens on a subconscious level, though, right? Like we're most often not really aware of that. We're very aware of the loudest voice, which is
We're
the part of you that wants to pursue the
not
agenda,
only
right?
are we aware of that voice, but a lot of us are addicted to that voice,
Addicted to that voice. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know, it's
yeah.
like you think it's a guru telling
We
you
really believe it. We really, it's a guru. We really believe that voice. We really, it's like a room of children
it's
screaming,
an
and one is the
idiot.
loudest. Yes, and we really believe the loudest voice in our head. And
Yes.
sometimes the loudest voice, it's always there to protect us, but sometimes the loudest voice is not the wisest voice,
Well, for
right?
one thing, it can't tell reality from reality, right? It can't tell what it's making up in illusionary is part of that reality, right? So because we're it's an inside out, right? We're projecting
Mhm.
our current real. Like if I was to hold up, or even the word lemon, right? If I was to show you a picture or pretend to tell you, you're holding a lemon in your hand, right? And you're
Mhm.
cutting that lemon and you're about to take a, right? You're like my mouth is starting to fill up with water, right? There's no lemon. The mind can't because it reacts on memory, right? It looks at patterns. So right away it's projecting into, oh, there's a lemon here. No, there's no lemon.
There's no lemon.
There's
You're
no
projecting
lemon.
all those lemons in your life
Right. Well,
constantly.
do you know that there there is no future, right? The way we speak about the future, I want to take a step. I want to start this business. And it usually starts with the but, right? And we need to get behind our butts or in front of our butts, right? We need to stay in front of our
Which is
butts.
not the buts, is like BUT,
Yes,
one T.
yes. But so because after the but kills everything that's in front of it, right?
And start using instead. Go
And
for it. And,
and
right?
right.
And,
So
and.
regardless of what you think is going to happen, you have no idea. The best you can do is what accumulated information you have and stored in your little memory, right? Your past experiences, all that kind of stuff. Yes, very valid, but it has no dictation or no reliability in predicting a future. So when it comes to, it's like, oh, I'd love to do this, but I don't know if I have the time. Well, guess
Or
what?
I don't know if I'm good enough, or I
Or
don't
I'm
know if
good
I'm going
enough,
to
or
succeed, right?
how am I ever going to get this done? I was
Right.
just talking to you before I came on, and I was saying I had a client text me just recently that was saying that their assignment last week was to let go of agendas, let go of planning, right? Was to set yourself in a direction, right? And take a first step. That's the only step you need to take. That's the only step you can have to take, right? Is the one that's in front of you.
The one step, yeah.
And then after you do that, the next step will come, and the next step. Well, this he phoned me and said that you're not going to believe this. He started to take a step. Next thing you know, he's got some person contacting him for an interview this weekend. He's got another one that contacted him and said, "Hey, I've heard about your story. I want to do a documentary on you. I think it's something that people need to hear." And I said to him, I said, "Did you plan that?" He said, "No, no, you did." I said, "No, you didn't. All you did was you took a step in a direction that you wanted to, that you intended on going, right? And you started to say yes to all the things that were starting to drop in front of you as they were being, right. You set your GPS. So it just gave me a huge amount of goosebumps, and
Absolutely.
yeah,
I mean, it's really, it always goes back to the same thing, right? It always goes back to stop living in the what ifs, stop
yeah,
living in the rehearsing, stop living in recreating the past experiences, right? Because frankly, through the fear of something happening, right?
yes, yeah,
The fear comes from a past experience that now you're taking and projecting into an unknown future, right? And
yeah,
because the thinking is there, because the fear is there, guess what? It's attracting that very same thought, right?
absolutely.
Because
Well, it's constantly
equal,
looking for it. It's
equal,
constantly.
yeah, equal vibrations attract, right? So because you are afraid of it, you keep attracting it, right? One way or another. So as coaches, the reason why we always say we work on limiting beliefs and we really slow people down and and tell them to stop living in the experience, right?
Yes,
Calm down, right? And make a different decision.
yeah,
Even when it feels impossible to believe a different decision, which oftentimes the limiting belief is what's keeping you stuck. All the things that you believe to be true are the things that are keeping you there, not
yeah.
able to move, right?
And there's
So it's typically the opposite.
yeah,
It's the opposite belief that you need to create for yourself, right? And it can really feel impossible to believe that, because guess what? By rehearsing that, by believing it, you have
mhm,
wired that thinking in,
yeah.
right? And it's oftentimes difficult to move away from something that's wired in, because it happens on a subconscious level until you see it and you do something about it,
and
right?
and it and it takes a few minutes. Like, it's not an instant thing, right?
It's not an
Like,
instant thing.
it's like with anything you're learning something new. It takes a little bit of a learning curve, right? Like,
Mhm.
like you just can't buy a piano and start playing it. Maybe somebody can, but I certainly can't, right? So there's some fundamentals. And I know Nilsson brought up how do you quiet it.
Hey,
And I
Nelson.
Yeah.
Hello. He's a Canadian like you on the other side of Canada.
Yes, 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 he said that. And so I was kind of like, so part of that is the awareness of that you have that voice. We all hear that voice, right?
Mhm.
Well, the fact that you can hear that is your consciousness, right? You have that consciousness present, that you can hear that voice. You can hear your thinking. As far as I know, I think we're the probably the only creatures that we are able ascertain, anyways, at this level of our science, is we can hear our thinking, right? Who's hearing that thinking, right? It's that the observer. And if you notice, if you reflect back on pointing the mirror towards that observer, you'll notice that it's very neutral. It has a total neutral state. It's watching the shit show going on, wondering, is he going
All
to get
those thoughts
this?
coming in and out. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Which is why it's so important. I feel like I say this in every episode,
What?
to voice those thoughts
Yeah,
out loud, because when they're just kept in our thinking, they
yeah.
blend and they're blurry and they blend with other thinking that comes in. When you voice them, you're processing them in a very different way, and you're hearing them in a very different way, and you're isolating the thinking, right? The different thoughts, you're like separating them.
Yeah.
When you have them all mixed in your head, it's all a big blur, and it's very difficult to make sense of it and to kind of
Oh,
stop it,
well,
right?
it's chatter.
It wants to go somewhere. The chatter wants to go somewhere. So Nelson, to answer your question, and I know we talked about this during our our mastermind sessions. To answer your question, just start speaking out loud. And I know that may sound a little bit funny, I'm gonna look like a crazy bitch. Do it when no one's around. Start saying it out loud. You don't have to tell anyone that you do this. Trust
No.
me, it works. Start saying it out loud. When the moment that you feel like a thought is just rehearsing, just not leaving you alone, you're aware of it, right? Start saying it out loud. And once you start hearing it, you're going to be able to kind of coach yourself and hear it in a different way. And like sometimes be like, oh, that's a little silly. But I would say 100% of the time, don't feel guilty or angry or dismiss it. Again, acknowledge it. It's valid. I hear you. It's valid. I get your concern. You sound very upset. Say that to yourself, right? What can I do about it? Right? What would be useful for me to do? So, first of all, once you let it out, you're starting to calm down all the busyness in
Well, and
there, right?
that's the key, right?
That's the
That's the
key.
key,
That's
right?
the key.
So
Yeah.
I remember, a number of years ago, one of the things I used to do was, again, practice the noticing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at first I started to do that, like notice the thoughts, that the train of thoughts, right? So I started to meditate a little bit, and part of meditation, to not to get any enlightened experience about it, but just to be more aware of my thinking. So I would start off really simple, just I would count my breaths in and out. And then I would notice that my mind would get distracted, would drift.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I noticed that it would drift, I'd go back to the beginning again and see how far I could get counting. And then when it drifted again, right? And so I started to notice how busy it can be in there, even when you think it's quiet, right? Then the other thing was kind of sorting. I started to sort
Mm-hmm.
my thoughts out, and I would literally be. Sometimes I'd be driving along, and I'd go, "Oh, that's not helpful." Out the window. It's like,
I love that. I
you're
love
right.
that. I love that you can do that, right? I love that you can
But it
do
takes
that.
it takes a little bit of practice, right?
It also takes not dismissing it. It takes acknowledging it.
Well, it's
You're
there.
there. I see you. I
I see
hear
you.
you. Can you please move to the side?
Move to the
Right?
side. Get out
Move
of the
to the
way.
side.
I'm on my way someplace.
Let's hear somebody else. It's kind of like a school of children. You gotta kind of teach them to take turns, right? Sometimes you're so busy in your head that it's just all coming in for all different directions. I find in those days, I find it useless to just be angry at it and like feel like, oh my God, I'm in it again. Like, how can I possibly be like this? I'm a coach, right? I had those moments when I first became a coach. I'm like, I can't have any of this thinking.
Yeah.
How am I going to coach anybody else? Like, I had very disempowering thoughts like that, right? And guess what? They kept coming in. And so the only way is to be, I see you, I hear you, and your concerns are valid.
Yeah.
Let's hear from some of the other thoughts. Let's just calm our system so that we can come up with
Well, you could hear something.
a solution,
Yeah.
right? So we can hear something different, because hearing there's no way out, you're
No.
never going to do anything, you're stuck, your circumstances are not allowing you to thrive, or whatever it is. What is that doing? And that's a question that I always ask people when I help them get past limiting beliefs. What do you have to lose? What's the outcome of you continuing to
Exactly.
believe this thought?
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing you've gotten until now,
Yeah.
right? So let's just try something different. Let's experiment. Play with me.
Explore
Play
it.
with me. Let's
Yeah.
experiment. Let's pick something smaller if this is too big. And
Take
let's try to
low
believe,
hanging fruit. Low
yeah,
hanging fruit, right?
what would happen if we believed the opposite? What would be the outcome of that?
Yeah.
Let's find some evidence for that, right? So this is the limiting belief work, right? So why are we going there? Because that's very much what it's entailed, right? When you're
That's what
stuck,
that's what you're saying.
you're not gonna get unstuck unless you do something different, right?
Yeah.
So trust us. The answers are within you, that the answers are within the work
Yeah.
of reflection, journaling, looking within, asking powerful
Well, no,
questions.
and
That's where the
here's a
answer
Canadian
is.
metaphor for you. Okay.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
know it snows in New York, but it snows a lot in Canada, right? Okay. Um, but when you're stuck in the snow, right? You see people spinning their wheels, right? I gotta go faster, gotta go faster, faster, right? But the secret to a lot of all, like, I think to all of it is to slow down, right? Is to stop, right? So stop spinning the wheels, stop spinning the hamster wheel, right? Get recentered, calm yourself down, okay. Then gently move forward.
Mhm.
Gentle with yourself, right? So it's a slow spin, right? Yeah, yeah, you may need a nudge here from somebody behind you pushing you off the snowdrift or something, but it's not the fast spinning wheels that get you there, right? It
It's
creates a lot of
not.
friction,
Yeah.
creates a
It's you
lot of
actually slowing down. Yeah.
anxiety. There's are you familiar with Elizabeth Gilbert in her book
Mhm.
Big Magic?
I actually I haven't read it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's on my wish list.
Okay. So in her book, she talks about that idiot that we
Mhm.
are referring to. Okay, who's got all the good intentions in the world for you, of course. She says, you know what? That idiot was driving far too much.
Mhm.
And then at one time, I said, okay, you can be the co-pilot, and that wasn't enough. So finally, she put the idiot in the back seat and said, look, that's where you stay. You can offer your opinions once in a while, but that's it. You're in the back
Mhm.
seat. Don't touch the radio. Don't touch the windows. Don't touch anything. I'm driving. And it's a great book about sort of getting out of your way, getting unstuck because what you're stuck because you're in your own way.
You're in your own way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to try and do a little techie thing because I want to answer this question from Dawn.
Oh, you
I
did it.
did it. I did it. I did it. See, I have this belief that I'm not good with tech, but I just figured it out. Actually,
Woo.
I also want to answer the question Dawn was asking if we're Mind Valley coaches. I am a Mind Valley certified coach. Yes, we're Mind Valley fans. We love our community.
Yes.
Um,
Ever coach too?
Evercoach,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's where we met. Rick and I met at Evercoach. I also want to say hi to Kimberly, who will be our guest in a few
Oh,
weeks.
yes.
We
Very
haven't set
excited.
the date yet.
Yeah. Very.
She's Kay Mansfield down there. But I want to, we're very excited to have you, Kimberly, here and to have you on the show soon. And I do want to answer Dawn's question, right? So it's not it's not so much the thoughts as the associated stuck feelings, right? How do you deal with that? So the way you deal with feelings, right? So the stuckness can be caused by, by the thinking, can be caused by emotions, right? Emotions that need to be processed, right? And in order to move things and to release emotions, you have to do emotional release work, right? in the form of what I just said, expressing those emotions. It can be in writing. It can be you having a conversation with an empty chair. Yes, an empty chair. It's actually a technique. Very, very powerful technique. Nelson can probably speak to that. Um, in the form of expressing the emotion, right? Letting the emotion just kind of work its way out of you, right?
Yeah.
Because when you repress and suppress emotions, guess what? What they do, they just stay there and they bubble up and they create an even bigger block, right?
And they shake
Exactly.
your snow
The
globe.
emotion triggers the thought. The thought is, spinning your wheels, right? And it's not going to go, it's going to get re-triggered unless the emotion is being dealt with. So expressing your emotions is always a very good way to relieve the pressure, right? Oftentimes, most emotions can just be, you can be done with them after you have expressed them because it's just a need. We have the need to be heard and seen in that moment
Yeah.
around whatever that emotion is. Sometimes that emotional piece needs to be looked at with the help of someone, right? Can be a therapist, can be a coach, right? Whoever, is, it depends on what the situation is, but typically it will be one of those two people,
Well,
right?
if you're in that hamster wheel, I just want to add at one point about the thought feeling piece
Mm-hmm.
is, from my understanding, okay, thoughts and feelings are two sides of the same coin. You can't have a feeling without a thought, and
Mm-hmm.
thoughts usually have feelings attached to them. That's how we notice them more. We notice more of our thinking from the feelings that we're getting. And so, because we're always experiencing life through the feelings that are brought in through our thoughts, right? So, from my perspective, okay, and understanding is that when I am in that mood or wherever I am, right, it just tells me the condition or the quality of my thinking at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I heard this the other day. I'm making a meme about it. Like you can't. There is no such thing as love at first sight in a bad mood. So, and that's basically sort of this, it's in tongue in cheek, right? Nothing good comes out of a bad mood. Like there's nothing good that comes out of being stuck. So it is about exactly what you're saying. Whatever process works for you, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, I've done the mine teddy bear. That teddy bear got beat up pretty good. But it's just talking it out is a way of bringing it up to the forefront, and it
Mm-hmm.
loses its energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it loses its energy, it has a chance to dissipate. It has a chance
To
to go.
dissipate, yeah.
Right? If you
And
don't,
sometimes though, sometimes if it doesn't, it's because there's something else underneath, right? There's something a
totally,
little more complicated.
and that's where a
It's
little bit of
pro-
help helps, right?
yeah, it goes back to childhood. It goes back to more hidden stuff that you may not be able to do on your own. But 100% of the time, you can do something about releasing some of the pressure of that emotion by expressing it and not suppressing it
Yeah,
and not, shoving it under the rug, not pretending that's not there, because all that does is it just finds its way out somewhere else, right?
totally.
it,
Yeah,
it just creates discomfort. It comes in the form of depression, of being snappy at people and feeling stuck, right? Not being able to take action in your life, in the form of anxiety, right? In the form of literal physical illness, right? When someone
hmm,
chronically doesn't deal with their emotions, that's what happens. There's a lot of research and studies that are being done about this, right? So, really relieving that pressure from your emotions by expressing them to a friend, to someone that is able to hold that space for you in a safe way.
yeah,
If you don't have that person, I would highly recommend looking to go to a therapist or to hire a coach. They can
yep,
work with you on an emotional level and really doing this work of expressing it by talking to an empty chair, by recording yourself is very powerful too, because what happens is once you watch it again, right, once you watch yourself, I'm talking about video recording, You hear things differently, you see things differently, you process things differently because now you're the true observer, right?
Yeah.
You're not in it, you're not in the noise, you're not in the static, you're out of it, you're just watching it. So I always tell my clients, give it a day or two. When you're feeling good, watch it and watch what happens, and they always get more insights out of it, right? So that's the first step, right? The first step is managing our emotions around it, because
Mhm.
if you don't manage those emotions, guess what? Like Rick was saying, same side of the two sides of the same coin, right? It's going to trigger the thinking, and now the thinking is going to keep it's they're going to keep you stuck, right? So
It's the
once you
habit.
have dealt with this inner work, now you can start doing journaling, clarifying for yourself, why do I want to achieve this outcome? What do I really want? What am I passionate about? Does it align with me? What would it mean? Where is it threatening some other things in my life, right? Really looking at it as in a holistic way, right? Because we do have all these different parts in us that are there to protect the different parts of us and of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And even if we're not aware of it, they're there to run their own agenda sometimes. And that's when when you're like at a standstill,
Yeah.
because there's two different things that you want and you're not quite aware of them, right? So clarity, and then once you have this piece of clarity, now you're good to go, because now you can set an intention, you can create a plan, you can take action, you can really work on that motivation. What motivates me? How can I increase this motivation, right? How can I bring myself to do it? So it becomes very much just more of a strategic planning type of work. It's very much
Mm.
what we do as coaches, right? We walk the person through all these different phases and stages, right? And you start creating a plan. And then 100% of the time, all you have to do is focus on one step at a time. What's right in front of you, right? You can make your big plan, you can know where you're going, right? But then also trust the process.
Well, it's
Trust the
also
process and stay within the small steps.
absolutely, and trusting the process and understanding that what we're pointing to when you're on purpose, when you're running from on purpose, right? There's less decisions to be made. There's less figuring out to be made, and you find yourself in less times in a stuck situation, right? So um, when I'm not on purpose, it's then it seems like, oh, the idiot's jumped into the front seat again, and now it's looking for outside solutions. It's looking for
Mhm.
things like that. It would show up like, oh, I need to have this done, because if I could get this done, then I know that will be the answer, right?
Mhm.
No, never is. Never, never, never is. It's all for me. It's always been slow down, step away, right? What's the most important thing?
Mhm.
Realizing that, oh, okay, because when you're on purpose, there really is no decisions to be made. I used to tell in organizations, I say, when you have that vision statement, there's and you and that's the GPS, right? Anything that comes in, right? Oh, wait a minute, doesn't quite match. I guess we're not doing it. Kind of a thing. It's
Such
easier
a good
making decision
point.
making. But if you're
Such a
all
good
over
point.
the map, right? Anything that comes into your radars, you're struggling with it. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? I don't know. Should I be doing this? But when you're clear on your purpose, when you're clear on your vision, right? Anything that comes your way, it's sort of like, does it support my vision or doesn't it?
Yeah, check it with that. And you know what? On this piece, such a
Yeah.
good point you just made, such an important point, right? Because that's where the motivation and the driver is, right? That's what drives us to take action if we're on purpose.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, right? There's a little surprise there. You
Oh,
always have to check back with that purpose, because guess what? We're not standing still, we're evolving, right? So
it
if you
shows the
created
world
your
around us.
vision
Yeah.
5 years ago, be careful. You may feel a little different about some of it, right? So the work of clarity is an ongoing work. It's not just when you're stuck. You
Hmm.
always have to check back with yourself and make sure, am I still on purpose? And is my purpose still the same?
Yeah.
Or do I want to kind of take it from a different angle now? Or
Yeah.
does this not resonate with me anymore? Right? Or sometimes, if you haven't, I mean, if you're, like a Mind Valley member, I'm sure you're doing a lot of this work, right? But sometimes people think that they're on purpose and this is what they always wanted. And guess what? And then when they stop and they start doing this like deeper inner work of, looking at themselves and reflecting and questioning everything, right? Looking at their values and where they came from, they realize, oh yeah, that was just what I always thought as a kid that I wanted because, my mom or because my
Sure.
teacher or
Yeah.
because, where I was
Culturally, I was
born and where
supposed
I
to be a
live,
doctor.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like, and then you're in shock because you're like, I don't even believe that. Now that I'm actually thinking about it and questioning it, I don't even believe that, right? So always be careful because even when you do this work of creating your vision, guess what we do? What the mind always does, oh, got it, store it away, automate it, right? It's put away. And that's so useful because if we had to every day think about our purpose actively, like we would not go anywhere, right?
No,
That's
and that
very
brings us
useful.
kind of the full circle around the whole stuck piece, right? There's a
Yeah.
reason why you're stuck, and it's because it could very well be, right, that things have changed so much that that's not the direction anymore,
Mhm.
right? You you had thought it was, and that's kind of why where I've taken several of Michael Neal's courses, and one of the ones I got so much value and insight from was living a guided life, and it
Mhm.
was about it was a series of workshops that was really about setting your GPS, setting your intention, setting your purpose, whatever it is. So you're always, again, like you pointed out in the beginning, we're always acting at the level of our understanding in the moment. So
Mhm.
when you're setting your GPS, you're setting it at that particular level, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
As you grow, as you evolve as a human, right? You have more experiences, more different things, right? When you start to feel that things are starting to slow down or getting mucky or you're getting stuck, I think the first place to look for is, okay, does my GPS still valid? Is my purpose still valid? Because again, like if you're living a guided life, which basically means, setting your GPS and looking for the next step to take, right? Then providence always takes control, right? So it'll reveal the next step and reveal it. It'll give you things that you would never be able to plan for if you're
Mhm.
open, if you're open and willing to say yes.
Absolutely. And let's remember what that GPS is, right? Guess what the address is? The address on that GPS, where you're going, is what you believe.
Yeah,
Your thoughts, your
yeah,
thinking, your beliefs are the address on the GPS. That's why we just stress so much. Work on your beliefs. Just turn them around,
yeah,
right? What do you want to choose to believe? Because what you choose to believe is where your brain is going to take your reticular activating system, will start to show you all the reasons why your beliefs are true, right? So, what are you going to choose to believe today,
And
right?
if
If
if you're listening to Fatih right now and you're going, yeah, but, yeah,
what is behind that but, right? What is behind
stay in
that
front
but?
of it. Stay
And
in
the
front.
other thing that I want to say, the other
Yes.
thing that I want to say is please be okay with asking for help. Invest in yourself, not just in terms of doing the work, which is a time investment. It's work. It's
Yeah.
called doing the work for a reason.
Yeah.
It's an investment in you and in your life.
Yeah.
Invest time in yourself.
Yes.
Invest time in self-care. Invest in hiring a coach. Invest in hiring a therapist, whatever you're comfortable with. You're investing in you. The most important part of your life is you, right? If you're not investing in you, how are you going to invest in anything else? It's okay to ask for help. Sometimes it literally takes a couple of sessions. We all do discovery calls.
Yep.
Sometimes really seeing things in a slightly different way can completely shift things for people. Reach out to us. We'll be happy to point you in the right direction if we're not a fit. Invest in yourself. Ask for help. There's absolutely nothing wrong with
Oh,
asking
and
for help because
it's cheap. It is cheaper than you think it is. And to Don's question, he says, do you have a cheat sheet we can look at for those times we feel stuck? See, um, and that's an individual thing too. And so, I think from both fatigue, I won't speak for fatigue, but I know from my own personal, when people come to me, it's a personal thing. It's what, because you see, I can never see the way you see, right? So anything that's being developed is from your perspective, right? So
Mhm.
it's really understanding more about yourself, right? So the work is always within. So it starts with awareness, it starts with desire, and then we put the tools and everything else that that's together, tailored for you, right?
Mhm.
Because let's be frank, if reading a book, of all the, I think, a million different how-to books out there to be successful, if that was the only thing that was in people's way, we would have a lot more people successful,
Absolutely. But
right?
so I would say I love how, it very much, the cheat sheet very much comes from what resonates for you, what works for
Absolutely.
you. But I'm
That's
going
right.
to say one thing that I feel like really works well for everyone because it's in the moment that we get tricked and we're not seeing it and we get in the rabbit hole, we get in the loop
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the reaction, right? The thinking, the feeling disempowered, and then we react to that, right? And we can't get out of that loop in the moment, anytime in your life, in any situation where you feel constricted in your body, right? Check in with your body. Do I feel pressure in my chest? Do I feel pressure in my throat? Do I feel something in my stomach, right? Am I feeling a little angry and a little, like I'm being triggered very easily? That's your clue. That's your cheat sheet. That's your clue. Step one, cheat sheet number two, calm your nervous system in that moment. One quick way to do that, I mean, Rick has this ability to just sit back and like let all his thoughts go. I mean, listen, it's a lot of practice. Everyone and anyone can get there. I would say if you're first starting, there's a couple of ways that you can do that by staying really present. You can grab something and really feel it, feel all of the ridges, start noticing all the details, really focus on something else, right? It can be tactile, it can be visual, it can be something that you smell, right? So
even
that's one
even just
way.
counting your breathing for
Exactly.
yeah.
So, number two, breathing technique, super quick. No one needs to notice. Breathe in, hold your breath for a few seconds. I always hold it for 25. I know it's long. When I coach someone, I ask them to hold it for 10. For some people, that's even too long. Hold it for 5 seconds, and then let it go. And just really connect with your body and feel how your body is like
That's what
almost melting down, right?
Mel
Do
Robbins
the
is
three,
yeah.
yeah, 3, 4 times, right? As your body calms down, and now you have slowed down, the thinking. Now think about it again, right? What can I do? What can I believe? Just think about the thought that's coming in that you're obsessing over. What's the opposite of that,
Well,
right?
and is it supportive or isn't it?
Is it not? Is it making me feel like, did I just have to do a breathing technique to calm down? The
Exactly.
answer is yes.
Yeah,
It's not empowering.
it's not.
Okay, what's the opposite of this thought? How can I bring myself to believe the opposite of this thought? And if the opposite is too far for you, find a middle ground. It's all about compromise. See it as a relationship between different parts of you,
Yeah.
right?
You're
You
looking for
need,
quick
you,
wins. You're looking for something that's down and quick. Like, and that's why I encourage people to look at the hanging fruit, like not to go
Mhm,
after the big, the big one, right? It's sort of like, grab whatever you can. When you're in traffic and traffic's pissing you off right now, notice that thought, right?
mhm,
That's low hanging fruit right there.
mhm.
And when you get control of that one, right, the next one will pop up. The next one will pop
Mm-hmm.
up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when it gets down to, oh my God, whatever it is, right? You've all had that practice already, right? And there's really no difference between the big fruit and the little fruit. It's just your perspective. It's just what you're thinking.
Absolutely. And listen, there's no way that we can coach everyone on a live show, right?
Oh,
But the one thing that is universal for everyone are these two steps, right? Noticing,
yeah,
I'm triggered, I'm in a disempowered state right now. This does not feel good in my body at all, right? Slow down, right? Calm your body, and now think, what can I think about? What can I believe now that's
absolutely.
going to feel more empowering,
What
right? And the
really is
rest
the next
is
step, right?
what really is the one tiniest next step that I can take. If the tiniest next step is to just slow down your thinking, there's a lot of value to that, because guess what you're doing? You're now rewiring your brain to start doing this exercise of noticing and
Yeah,
slowing down. So that's your first step. And trust me, once you have accomplished that, because again, part of what we do, our work is to redirect people, right, in our coaching sessions. And guess what? As you do one, two, three, four, 5 sessions, the client starts doing it for themselves. And the reason for that is because as you notice and slow down, you notice and slow down, notice and slow, if that's the only thing you do for the next month, you have wired that in. And
yeah.
now you're going to do it automatically without having to do the breathing, calming down, right?
Well,
You
yeah,
automatically know how to calm yourself.
and you'll
And
start
then the
to,
rest is going to come,
yeah,
right?
and you'll start to notice how things look different.
Yeah,
It's all the same, but it looks different.
it looks completely different. And it's just, don't take our word for it.
Just
Please do this
try this
exercise
thing
in one little step, right? We always talk about tiny steps at a time,
out.
because guess what? It's one of those things that you open the gift and there's another little gift in it. We
Yeah,
can't
those
tell
those
you what's
those
inside the
Russian
next
those
one,
dolls. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, until you open this one, right? One step, learn to kind of wire in this behavior, this mental redirection. And
yeah,
then from there, there's a lot that you can do,
yeah,
right? But it's very subjective.
yeah.
That depends on the situation and the person, right? What they're dealing with, what they're trying to change in their lives. There's 100% of the times you can do this. You can slow down, bring yourself back to the present moment. And yeah, and then if you guys want to go deeper into this, I'm doing a session. I'm doing a coaching session, group coaching session on Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm in New York, so all my events are Eastern time.
Mhm.
We'll go a little bit deeper into this. Anyone welcome to join with more questions. Even if you just want to pop in and tell me, oh, I tried that and I felt better. We'd
Yeah,
love to hear that. And we would love to hear that, to see you, just come and tell us on here too. Put it on, on Facebook, on
yeah.
YouTube. Let
YouTube.
us know, because we
Yeah,
want to know. Give us feedback. We want to know that this has been useful to you or that's helped you.
yeah. And thanks, Don, for your comments. We really really appreciate that.
Thank you for coming.
And yeah, like us, share us, subscribe to us, all sorts of different ways. Show your support that way. And definitely pop in with Fatih's offer for Friday. Um,
And
and
reach out to us. We each have our links to all the things
yep,
that we do in
yep,
the notes, in the caption, everywhere.
yeah,
Linktree. It's got all our information. So if you have
everything's
any
there.
questions, reach out.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
anyway, another very
Um,
full.
yeah, another
Well, and
amazing
it's an
show.
important subject, and we'll probably revisit it again some other time.
Many
Because
times,
I mean, if
yes.
there's the number one coaching question that I get is how do I move on? How do I get past this? Right?
Hmm.
In whatever form that looks like. And we've talked about several ways how it materializes in forms, but other than that, thank you very much. I think there was a lot of takeaways today,
Yeah.
And I hope people got some value. Please tell us if you have. And
They have gotten value.
I know, I
Look
know.
at me. I'm like, Rick, they got value. You and I are awesome.
Okay, yes,
Beliefs.
I'm blushing. I'm blushing. All right, I'm gonna end this before.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. It was a pleasure and honor to share
Yeah,
this space with you. And I'm going to see you next week. I'll be in Estonia. Anyone, if you want to meet me in person, any Mind Valley friends, I'll be there. The Super Coach event. And if
nice.
not, I'll see you back in New York a couple weeks later. But I will be on. I'll figure it out.
Okay, always do. All right.
Different background. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.